Hello, everybody. Welcome to Rewind and Reflect, where we believe in the universal truth that there is no such thing as mistakes or coincidences. And we are here to share some of our life story with you. My name is Deb Miller.
Hello, everybody. I'm Susan Doyle. Hi, Deb.
Sue, how are you?
Well, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm like one layer down here. So now I have a tank top and a long sleeve, sort of kind of sweatshirt, but not really fleecy or fuzzy. So, like, we are making progress here.
Good. And you got some color on your cheeks from
I
sitting in the
did.
sunshine?
I
Yeah.
did last weekend. It got to like 85 here one day,
Wow.
and it was just fantastic. And then the next day it was kind of sunny. So yeah, like the buds are out, the sun is out. I'm sleeping with the windows open a little bit. I feel like I was saying to you before we hit the record button that it's amazing, even though I wake up as early and I do all the same things. I'm
Mhm.
even actually more active because it's lighter out later now. I am so less tired than in the it's like I feel like I'm a plant. All I need is some sun, some water,
Mm.
and some good soil. And I'm
Yeah.
like,
And
I'm
somebody
good.
to walk by you once in a while and tell you you're pretty.
That too. That too. Maybe dust off my leaves a little bit.
Because yours was,
Oh my goodness. But like with spring for me, with spring comes, so I always have this sort of like these rituals that I do. So this past weekend, I have winter bedding and spring summer bedding. Took all the winter bedding off. I washed all the sheets, all the comforters for summer. Put them outside. I don't have a clothesline, but I do like kind of hang it
from the trees.
off my furniture trees. Um, put all the deck furniture out. I haven't gotten bold enough to get like my sweaters out of my closet because I do believe that it's going to be chilly still for a little bit. Um, but like I put my coats away and I sort of like I go through my drawers and I throw out stuff that I haven't worn or that's smelly and gross and oh my God, I feel like the sense of like just newness and renewal and I
Yeah,
love it.
I
I
love a
love
good
it.
spring cleaning.
Right?
I do. I love a good spring. There's nothing better. I remember when I was in Connecticut, like, and having one of those beautiful days where you could open the windows and I would just clean every nook and cranny.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, it just felt so good. And then, psychologically too, it feels good. It's like, okay, we're becoming born again. We're coming out of that hibernation mode. And it's a really
Yeah.
time, I think, let me turn this phone off because I forgot to. I think it's a good time to kind of take a look at, um, how you want to take on this next season of your life, so to speak.
I completely agree. I was just thinking that you shed, for me, it's like you shed all those heavy clothes. You just shed this layer of darkness, right? And you just come into this season where, for me, I'm more active, I'm an active person, but I'm more active. I love being outside. And it's like, on the very surface level, it's I'm leaving behind my winter armor, right? Where
Mhm.
you're all bundled up, you hate going outside, it's dark all the time. And which sort of brings me into this other thing is, I feel like this lightness this
Mhm.
time of year, right? I feel not only a lot more daylight, but my body feels lighter, my headspace feels lighter. Um, and we've talked a lot about this, and I think we should kind of dive in here. It's like, what else can you shed or can you leave behind
Mhm.
to make room for this new, not only a new season in nature, but you're right. I mean, every season presents a new I mean, every day presents a new opportunity, but sometimes we can't see past our daily routines. But when I have a day like you open the windows, or really like like we were catapulted into spring because literally a week ago it was snowing, right?
Right.
So then it's like, okay, like what else can I leave behind besides winter and the snow and the darkness to create more possibility, new possibility for me?
Yeah, that's a really good thought process. With every kind of new awakening that I have on my spiritual journey, I ask myself that question because I've felt so weighed down in the past by how do I say this? Like thought process, a thought that necessarily what isn't my own, but has been taught to me. Okay. So
Hmm.
that disconnection from our unconscious space. We want to live in our consciousness. But and one of
But
the
you can't when you're dragging the past with you all the time.
no, you can't, but see that when you're living in the past or when you're worried about the future or any of that stuff and not just living in the moment, you're living in your ego, the ego part of your mind. And our ego is what drives us to make certain conclusions or certain decisions, and they're not necessarily made through the spirit. They're made through the ego, and they're not connecting, right? So
Hmm.
every day I try to shed the ego a little bit. And with this, so it's different here in Florida because I don't even know half the time what month we're in. I'm like, it feels like August here right now. It's, humid and high 80s. So
Mm.
I don't
Okay.
have necessarily that spring feeling. So
Hmm.
I have to work even more, really hard on like every single day as an awakening, as being very conscious of what it is that I want to let go of, what I want to change internally. Because when you change things internally, then your external situation will change.
Yeah, that's interesting because, now I'm thinking to myself, like, do I rely too much on cues,
Hmm.
signs from Mother Nature to say, okay, it's time for a change? Should it's something for me to look at is,
Yeah.
maybe I'm too reliant on an external, even though it is nature, reminder
Mhm.
to shed a little, you know, drop something to make some, room for something else. And what else other than that one, like what else am I willing to leave behind to
Right.
make room
Oh, yes.
for, something else? And that's interesting that, there is definitely a difference that when your environment doesn't change all that much, correct? I mean, you have to make it a conscious practice
That's
to do
right.
that.
That's right.
Yeah. That's
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 right.
that's a great
Yeah.
that is a big difference. It's a big difference.
It is. And trust me, like I really miss the changing of the seasons. I mean, I just love fall and spring, not so much. I feel like, I mean, I love, those first couple days of like, oh, warmth. But to me, spring can be really rainy, and I'm not a fan of the rain. So,
Yeah.
um, but I love summer in New England and fall. But I'm not, I'm here in this environment that is very tropical all year long. So you're right, I'm not getting those cues from the environment necessarily, but I am still very much focused on letting go of things that no longer serve me. And that is a
Right.
lot of ego-driven crap. I have so much head trash in my mind because of past experiences or you know, growing up with certain expectations like we've spoken about a long time ago. And again, no fault of the way I was brought up. It's just like, this is what you do. You go to college, you get a job, you get married, you have family, whatever, whatever, whatever.
Hmm.
Um, and so I haven't learned until now, until recently, the past year and a half, that I don't want to live in my ego anymore. I want to disconnect from that, and I want to go solely on what my intuition tells me and what is good for my spirit. And since I've done that, things have really, they've not only have they worked out tremendously, but I'm at such peace now. I'm so trusting in the universe,
Yes,
higher power. And it's like
I
all,
agree with you. I agree with you. It's funny because I was thinking today, I practiced yoga this morning and I was in the shower and I'm like, I just feel so much more at peace. I think what I wrestle with is knowing that the process of leaving things behind or letting things go is not finite. And there's been times where I beat myself up because I picked it up again.
yeah,
Do you know what
that's
I'm saying? So it's like, and you're sort of like, I thought I did that. I thought I let that go. What the hell? Why is it back here? And so it wasn't until I could, I had the tools to say, this is reappearing because you haven't learned everything that you needed to learn from this yet. It rather than making it ego driven about me and my
yeah,
failings.
very good. Exactly. Yes.
So, there are times too that I have chosen, like you, to leave things behind, to not drag them into a new season or a new beginning or even a new day. Sometimes really it's as simple as not bringing yesterday not carrying things over from even yesterday,
Yeah.
right? And then there's times where I was like, I thought I sort of mastered something, right? And then the universe sort of drops it back in your lap, and me, mistakenly pick it back up, but it's really not a mistake because because the universe is saying you haven't quite.
Yeah.
You think you let it go, you think you left it behind, but in actuality, there's still like this 20% nugget that you're still carrying around with you.
Yeah. That's going to turn into a boulder if you don't pay attention
Correct.
to it. Yeah. You gotta acknowledge it's still there and work on it. It's
Yeah.
when Kristen and I will use her because she's been on this show, so she's, her anonymity is, out the whatever. I don't have to protect
Hmm.
anonymity, but she's one of my sponsees. And when we first did the 12 steps of AA and NA, um, she actually was NA 12 steps, which is very similar, just a little bit tweaked, but same principles. Um, that took us months and months and months to do. And she had pages and pages of work to do, like writings that she did for each step. And then we just recently did the 12 steps of AA. And that was 2 years after she did her first 12 steps. And like to look at the growth in those 2 years, but also she's like, wow, you revisit things that are still there. And she's like, wow, I still wrestle with that, you know,
Right.
still, and that was 2 years ago. And although it's much better, it's not detrimental to her well-being. It still is something that needed to be paid attention to because, we have a lifetime of head trash and behaviors in the past that now we're finally going, okay, I got to sort through some of this stuff. And you can't fix something overnight like that. When you have been in a belief pattern for your entire life about something.
And
So
I don't think it has anything to do with willpower or willingness. I
no,
think
nothing.
it has to do with, um, like you said, it's been with us for so long that it feels like it's part of us.
Yeah.
And by shedding it completely, you're you're shedding this part of yourself that you thought was your personality or who you are, or you've affiliated it like that. And yeah, and it takes ongoing work. So it's interesting. So did she feel though, when she revisited some of these things, or even for you, when you were going through the steps, and I'm sure I would suspect, and correct me if I'm wrong, that when you bring a sponsee through the steps, you sort of take inventory of yourself, you kind of
For
look at
sure.
yourself and
Yeah.
say, where am I in this step,
Mhm.
or how far have I come, or how much more do I have to go, right?
Absolutely.
Um, I would suspect, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the things that she saw that she still has to give some attention to were a lot less severe, in
Oh,
the sense that you know, instead of it being a barrier, it's maybe like a little retaining wall.
yeah, for sure. Like I'll give you, like for instance, when you write down people that you need to make amends to, like our first meeting, she had a lot of people she needed to make amends to. And this last time she had like, she felt she needed to maybe make amends to maybe one or two people. And those were the people that like she worked with that got on her nerves. And she was like, I kind of, might have been a little snappy towards them. And, I really do need to make amends, even though they drive me crazy. I know I have to, whatever. It's so different. But and then, as we move forward in life, well, in this program anyways, I'll speak for me. You get to a point where you know immediately when you've done something or said something that doesn't feel good and you need to make an amends, so and you just do it right then, like, I'm sorry that came out wrong, or I'm sorry I was so, direct, but that my feelings were hurt, or whatever. You just deal with it right then and there.
Right.
So when it comes time to make that list, it's usually pretty short, when you're doing a second time around, steps in the program. But it's very freeing. I like what you said earlier about in the winter time we wear all this heavy warm stuff, and we really do just, and when we get home we get under blankets, and the house is all, shut down, shut in, and it's like, and it's just you're hibernating. You really are
Mm-hmm.
hibernating. But when you shed all of those clothes, you feel lighter, you feel happier. And I always say to my girls, like, stop wearing that wet fur coat. It's heavy and you don't need
Heavy.
to wear it anymore, because they really, and all of that heaviness of a wet fur coat, you can imagine how
Mm-hmm.
heavy that is. It's like, that's just all the shit that we carry around with us. And you don't need to do that anymore. So take it off and let it go,
Yeah. Agreed. Agreed. And I think, again, it's one of those things that you also have to give yourself some grace, that it's not a finite process. There's not like a beginning and an end, so you do sometimes pick the things back up a little bit, or a different version of them. So when I was doing my yoga teacher training, one of my yoga teachers um, said it in a way that it really resonated with me. And he said, think of your body, like your physical body, as a filing cabinet. And every year, like, you're putting more files in. So by the time you get to a certain point in your life, number one, there's no room for more files, good or bad, right? And you're weighed down. At some point, you have to start going through that filing system and getting rid of the files that you no longer need, no longer speak to you, no longer need to own, in order to have empty space in your file cabinet for new things.
Yeah, you got to purge, baby, purge.
Yeah. And so I think for me, the rituals of spring and summer and fall for me feels more like a new year than an actual new year. Um, and I think that probably has to do with my Jewish upbringing, but we won't even go there. Is really just like when I purge, even if I purge clothes
Yeah.
and then like refold and organize, this weight is lifted.
Oh, yeah.
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 And
I,
so if I can purge some things in my head, the weight is lifted.
it's going to feel just as good. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you
Mm-hmm.
think, I love the file cabinet analogy, because if you think about it, one day you're going to pull out a drawer and the whole thing's going to fall on you. Squish, right? Because it's so packed with crap. So
Yep. It's so lopsided.
yeah. And so you don't want all of that stuff, coming down on you to the point where it paralyzes you in your life.
Mm-hmm.
That's exactly what will happen. It will paralyze you if you hold on to stuff that no longer serves you, that you don't need anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten into the habit of, if I will only buy something for me if I like a piece of clothing, if I donate 5 pieces of clothing, because I I have the tendency to hold on to stuff that I don't even fit in anymore. Because I'm like, well, maybe.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't I don't want to hold on to things or people or thoughts that don't fit me anymore. There's no need for it.
Agreed.
And one day,
Agreed.
I might lose the weight and fit back into that dress or whatever, and I might get into a headspace where that person I can, have back in my life or whatever. But for right now, for today, I have to live in a space that fits.
Agreed. Do you think by saying maybe someday that it's leaving the door open for you to fall back into a pattern or a thought or a relationship that doesn't serve you? Or, how do you feel about, because I feel like I'm keeping, so I have known people in my career that have had like wardrobes of, size 4, size 8,
Yeah.
depending on where, and they always leaving the door open to either
Yeah.
gain the weight back or
Yeah.
lose weight again.
Sure.
And so for me, it's, I'm not saying go out and buy a brand, like spend thousands of dollars
I
on
got my
new clothes. And it's really just an analogy, but do you feel like leaving the door open to I'm gonna fit into that, or maybe someday that person I will have space in my life for this person that has shown me that they don't serve my higher purpose any longer. Do you feel like keeping that door open or that possibility open in the back of your head is not healthy?
Well, I've tried that many times before. I've kept those size 4 or 6 jeans, being like, I love them so much. They look so cute one day. And I never ever lose the weight. So why torture myself? It's like and same, I guess, with people like, oh, that friendship, I really want it to be the way it was. Well, it's not, because we grow. And so right as of now, that person isn't a good fit for me. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to surround myself with people who are going to help me grow and nurture me and help me in the spiritual journey. And then if that other person ends up coming back in my life, like you and I did, and we're
Mm-hmm.
both at the place where we're healthy enough to be friends, and we are meant to be together for a higher purpose,
Mm-hmm.
higher good, great. But I'll shut those doors, because I don't. And it's like, even with my addiction, people always say to me, like, well, why can't alcohol really wasn't your thing? It was the drugs. So can't you at least have a drink? I'm like, I would be, if I left that door open of like, maybe one day I can have a glass of wine. I am just, I am asking the devil to just open it wider, wider, wider.
Yeah, I
No, thank
agree.
you. I'm shutting that door. I'm leaving it behind. And, we'll see what the future brings. But for right now, those doors are closed because it just tortures me, Sue. It tortures me to
Yeah,
see those jeans that I no longer fit in. And I know who I am, and I know that, I'm probably not going to ever fit in them again. And if I do, it's because I've stopped eating and therefore I'm dying. So I don't want to fit into them if that's the case. You got to look at
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, no, I get it. I get it. For me, it's I do, and I don't think it's a healthy trait, have the ability to literally shut somebody down, out, by, and won't revisit it, right?
No
So
kidding.
I think and the same thing with clothes. It's like I could most likely fit into the clothes that I was wearing in seventh grade still.
Oh my
Because it's
God.
like I don't give myself that up, you know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
think for me, I need to um I need to leave that behind and be a little more open to a whole realm of things.
Mhm.
Like it's okay to buy a size 6. It's okay to revisit relationships because now I'm in a better headspace. Do you know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so I think I have worked over the years to be much less, black and white. That,
Mhm.
I have to look at myself and say, okay, I've acquired these tools to know that life is much more colorful than how I've seen it in black and white for so long.
Mhm.
Do you know what I'm saying?
So I think to visualize this, like you close the door, but if somebody knocks on the door, you're willing to open it. Instead of in the past, you'd be like, I don't hear any knocking. I don't know. No, that's not
Yeah.
happening. At least say, okay, I got to close this door right now. But
Yeah.
in the future, somebody knocks on it, I will answer it. And
That
then
is
I'll decide
such a
then whether
great
or not,
way
yeah,
of saying it.
then I'll decide then whether or not I want to let them in, you know?
Yes. Yes. And it really has to do with the headspace I'm in.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. So that is a great way of putting it. If somebody knocks or something or somebody knocks on the door, I
Yeah.
am now willing to open the door.
To answer it and to evaluate it at that point.
Yeah,
But
that's
whether you want
great.
to let it in, because yeah, I mean, listen, I'm for me the biggest key to peace in my heart is forgiveness. And
Mm-hmm.
and I always people have given me such grace and forgiveness in the past that I need to and I will offer that to others, regardless of any pain that they may have caused, because we are human beings.
Amen.
We're not
Mm-hmm.
perfect. We make mistakes. We hurt other people. We live in our ego, and we're a constant work in progress. I'm a constant work in progress, but I choose to give for grace and forgiveness rather than punishment.
It's great. Yeah. As am I. I mean,
Yeah.
as is everybody, a work in progress.
Hmm.
So I guess I'm going to ask you this it's April. What right now? So it is spring, just reminding you that
Okay.
we are in we're headed into a new season, a new chapter. So what are you willing to leave behind right now to make room for something maybe even better?
Hmm. Again, I think I'm willing and working on leaving behind ego-driven thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
Thought I want to live more in my spirit than in my in my ego, in my consciousness rather
Mm-hmm.
than ego. And that means that I work more from a space of others' needs and what's good for my soul and my spirit than what's good in my head for my ego.
Awesome. Awesome.
That's today anyways,
Yeah.
How about you? What you gonna leave behind?
I am leaving behind black and white and moving into the color wheel for my
Pink.
life.
I
Pink,
like
love pink. And I am leaving behind um, expending energy worrying or thinking about more, I don't worry, more thinking about other people's opinion of me.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah.
That has taken up some headspace for me for a long time. And it comes and goes.
Yeah.
But there are some individuals that aren't necessarily like intimately in my life, but some layers removed, but are in my stratosphere, so to speak, that yes, I am leaving. I am making space by leaving behind their opinion of me because it's not my business.
Yeah, that's good. I think that us doing this and putting ourselves out there and opens up the door for a lot of people's opinions,
Oh, yes. Yes.
whatever that,
Um,
you know. Um, and so I had to really come to terms with letting that go too. And then with my book, I was like, but I've been really surprised that I don't know that people have said really. I gotten a lot of positive feedback, and the ones that don't think well of me, they've kept their mouth shut. So I do appreciate that because I can get really knocked down when
mm,
with criticism. Um, and I know that's something that I work on too.
yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's definitely time, right? Yeah, I
Mhm.
mean, anytime you expose yourself or anytime you live or go into a situation from a level of vulnerability, you do open yourself up to others' opinions. But I think of vulnerability and living an authentic life and a really purposeful, meaningful life is in in all the colors of the world.
Mm.
Do you know what I mean? So one can't be without the other. I
Yeah,
can't say I'm leaving behind black and white and still have those conversations with myself of, well, I can't get too vulnerable because somebody's going to say something, or this person has this type of opinion of me and it's affecting me. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't think I'm
totally.
making any sense, but
No, no, no. I totally understand what you're saying. Like we need it all in order to make all the beautiful colors. You need
correct.
a little black and white to make, different
Yeah.
colors in the spectrum. But those black and whites can hurt sometimes.
Mm.
So it's
You know
like,
who they hurt? They hurt me
yeah,
because I shut myself down
mm,
to other people's colors because
yes,
I
right.
was I you know because I have in the past seen some things so so white and so black. That
Yes.
all it's really hurting is me. The person who's living their life through, the spectrum of colors is being like, what the fuck is wrong with you?
Right, right. Because yeah, I get it. It's like that saying, and it's to visualize this saying I hate, but it makes sense you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's like
Yeah.
that baby has so much good in it.
Yes.
You're like, ooh, the water's dirty that I just bathed it in.
Yes.
Things
Yeah.
got up.
Yes. Right. Uh-huh.
You miss out on so many good parts of people if you just
Right.
shut them
Right.
down.
So I really end up just ripping myself off
Yeah,
and hurting myself and closing myself off because this other person is, or these people, or this work situation is going to go on without me.
right.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was the one who was was closed minded. I was the one who didn't open the door.
Right. Yep. They knocked and you said, nope.
Correct. Correct. And, and I think of taking a step further, I would like to explore what doors I need to knock on.
Oh, that's really good. Right. Yes. Well, it's funny because so I went to a pink moon meditation and she gave us my spirit advisor, she ran it and she gave us some questions to journal about with the pink moon and renewal and revival and all that stuff. And one of them is, do you have any relationships that you need to revisit and make right or offer forgiveness to? So essentially, yeah, what doors do you need to knock on?
Right? Yeah. I knocked on a bunch after my divorce, I have to say. I mean, and it felt really good.
Yeah.
And I also had a situation over the weekend that I was able to, somebody knocked
Yeah.
and I opened the door and I was able to, I guess, because I don't know how else to describe it, sort of get something off my chest because I did open the door. Um, I don't know necessarily if I'm jumping in again both feet, but there was some space that was cleared.
Yes. And that's all you can ask
That
for.
way. Yeah. So yeah, there was so yes, there was a real time example of that not too long ago for me.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
When before
It was
you would have
good.
been like, I'm not interested in hearing what you have to say,
Yeah.
but you're like,
Yeah.
all right, let's do this and let's figure it out. And,
Correct.
just choosing that direction is going to open up so many other things that need to
Mm-hmm.
happen and be discussed.
Right.
And
Right.
yeah,
In
so
due time. Right. Exactly.
mhm.
Exactly. So, um, I guess people can find us here, obviously. Would love to hear from people. If you want to email us hey, I would love to hear from people what they are willing to leave behind.
Mm,
What if they could take this exercise into their personal lives and say, truly, like just take a moment and what are you willing to leave behind moving into, for the people who I know around here moving into a new season or, the people who come to my classes or anybody out there, like what are you really truly willing to leave behind? It doesn't have to be this huge monumental thing. It could literally be a thought process that at times has held you back.
yeah, that's exactly right. Or let go of, you know, fear-based thoughts or whatever it might be. There's so
Whatever it is,
there's so
whatever it
much
is.
we
Yeah.
hold on to and it just drags us down.
And really, the willingness just has to be there. You don't have to know how to do it. The
Right.
willingness just has to be there. The willingness to look at something really closely with, a new eye is really what we're talking about, right?
Yeah, let us know.
Yeah, so rewind and reflect with us at gmail.com. If you like the show, if you like listening, share it, pass it along. And if you have something that you would like to hear, I think pretty much between you and I, we have tackled a lot in our
Yeah.
lives. Willing to tackle more, but yeah, we would love to hear from people. And I guess, I'm going to go and enjoy a little sunshine today. I might
Good.
step outside, put my face up against the sun for a little bit.
Okay.
It's always good to see your beautiful face.
Oh, thank you. Yours as well. And namaste to all of our friends. And we will see you next week, but please do reach out if we can help you with anything.
Love you all. Bye,
Love you.
Deb.